Most people believe they are the authors of their own stories. They rise each morning with the illusion of control, charting the day's course with logic and reason. But if you peer beneath the surface, in the quiet hours just before dawn, when dreams still cling to your thoughts like cobwebs, a stranger speaks. Not a stranger in the usual sense, but a version of you that you don't recognize. A version that doesn't obey the rules of time, language, or logic. This is the voice of your unconscious mind, and it has been trying to tell you something. For years, we think of dreams as strange nonsense, fleeting images that slip away with the morning light. But what if they were the most honest form of communication your mind can offer? What if your dreams were the raw, unfiltered poetry of your soul, messages encoded in symbol and emotion, meant only for you? That's what Carl Jung believed. In this depth psychology documentary, we explore Carl Jung and dream analysis, decoding your nighttime visions to reveal the hidden forces shaping your waking life. We'll dive into the unconscious mind, explained through archetypes, emotional intelligence lessons buried in symbolic dreams, and the transformative process of shadow work psychology. But this isn't just theory, it's a mirror, because why we do what we do often begins in what we refuse to see. This journey doesn't take place in a city or forest, but in the dreamlike topography of memory, symbol, trauma, and transformation. Here we walk through archetypal caves, swim beneath the surface of emotional tides, and listen closely to the cryptic language of the soul. If the pursuit of self-awareness resonates with you, stay with me. These questions won't leave you the same. When I was 16, I kept having the same dream. A giant spider, impossibly large, would chase me through a crumbling cathedral. I could feel its breath, hot and ancient, on my neck. The moment it caught me, I would wake up, gasping, drenched in sweat. For years, I thought it was just fear, just some primal leftover from horror movies and adolescent nightmares. But it wasn't, not really. It took me a long time and a lot of Jung to finally understand what the spider meant. That story I'll share soon. But first, we need to understand the man who first gave language to the architecture of dreams. Carl Gustav Jung, a Swiss psychiatrist and pioneer of analytical psychology, believed dreams were not meaningless detritus of the day, but coded messages from the deeper self. For Jung, the unconscious wasn't a pit of repressed urges, as Freud thought, but a vast and meaningful inner cosmos filled with symbols, shadows, and patterns older than memory itself. He believed dreams were the psyche's attempt at balance, its way of healing, warning, guiding, and transforming us from within. And at the center of this inner world, archetypes, universal symbols that appear across cultures and time, emerging in dreams like actors on an eternal stage. The wise old man, the shadow, the hero, the trickster, the mother. They are not characters from myths. They are myths within us, wearing our faces in our sleep. But how do we decipher them? How do we know what a dream means when its language is not literal? To answer that, we must first open the door to the unconscious and step into the symbolic world of archetypes, shadows, and the truths we fear the most. Carl Jung didn't see the mind as a simple engine of thoughts and memories. He saw it as a deep and mysterious landscape, a place where the known self floats on a dark sea of unknown forces. To navigate that sea, Jung introduced a concept that would change psychology forever: the collective unconscious. Beneath our personal experiences, beyond the moments of childhood or the particular traumas we carry, there lies a shared psychic inheritance, a universal memory system imprinted on every human soul. The collective unconscious, Jung believed, is filled with patterns and images that show up again and again in myths, religions, fairy tales, and dreams. These patterns are what Jung called archetypes. They are not ideas, but psychic organs. a deep part of the human experience itself. They live in us, often without our awareness, and they emerge most vividly when our conscious defenses are asleep. In dreams, you've met them before. We all have. Have you ever dreamed of being chased by a dark figure you couldn't quite see, a pursuer without a face? That is the shadow, the repressed, denied part of yourself that wants to be acknowledged. Not evil, but buried. The shadow holds what you've hidden from others, and often what you've hidden from yourself. Or perhaps you've dreamed of an old man or woman, wise, calm, saying something you don't quite understand but can't. Forget. That is the wise old archetype, the inner guide, a symbol of knowledge beyond logic. Sometimes this figure leads you to safety, sometimes to a confrontation with the truth. Maybe you've dreamt of flying, or falling, or discovering a hidden door in your childhood home that leads somewhere impossible. Each of these moments carries the fingerprints of archetypes, patterns older than language, that arise when your psyche is trying to tell you something important. Jung didn't provide a dictionary of dream symbols because he believed symbols were alive. Context mattered. Your associations, your feelings, your life stage, all of it shaped the symbol's meaning. Still, he taught us how to listen. For example, a lion might symbolize courage, power, or suppressed rage, depending on the dreamer. The ocean could represent the unconscious itself, vast, overwhelming, filled with hidden truths. A house might be your psyche, its floors, rooms, and architecture mapping your mental world. The key was not to decode the dream like a puzzle, but to enter it like a dialogue. The dream, Jung taught, is a living story, and the archetypes are its characters. They do not lecture, they appear, they act. And your job is not to control them, but to meet them. Understanding archetypes is the first step in decoding your nighttime visions, but it's not enough to recognize their forms. We must also explore how they behave in your personal dream landscape. That's where the real transformation begins, because when the unconscious speaks, it speaks in emotion, metaphor, and shadow, and sometimes it speaks through recurring symbols, the kind that won't leave you alone until you finally understand what they're trying to say. That brings us back to the spider in my dreams. It wasn't just a creature, it was an archetype too, but not one from a storybook. It was mine, personal, and it had a message for me that I wasn't ready to hear. Before I understood that message, I had to learn how to interpret dreams in the way Jung intended, not as passive analysis, but as active participation with the unconscious. The dream isn't a puzzle to be solved. It's a drama to be entered, and every image, every moment, every emotional twist is a reflection of something living inside you. Next, we'll explore how you can begin deciphering your dreams, and in doing so, uncover the buried truth of your own inner world. Dreams are not riddles to be cracked, but letters written in the forgotten language of the soul. To read them, Jung believed, we must abandon the need for immediate logic and instead become curious translators of the symbolic. This process is not passive observation. It is a deeply emotional and intuitive act of self-discovery. So how do you begin? First, you must remember, as simple as it sounds, many people never engage with their dreams because they vanish too quickly. The unconscious speaks best when the conscious mind hasn't yet flooded the system. So keep a journal by your bed, not a phone, not a keyboard, a real journal. The act of writing by hand slows your thoughts enough to catch the fragments. Write down anything, an image, a color, a sentence, a feeling. The more attention you give your dreams, the louder they become. Then, reflect not just on the events of the dream, but on the emotions they left behind. Did you wake up afraid, confused, empowered? The emotional residue of a dream often points more directly to its meaning than any visual symbol. Jung emphasized this. The dream's feeling tone is the thread that leads you into the labyrinth. Next, identify the key symbols, but don't rush to interpret them. Let's say you dreamed of a locked door. Don't immediately ask, "What does a locked door mean?" Instead ask, "What does this locked door feel like to me? Where in my life do I feel locked out? What part of me am I denying access to?" This is not about Googling dream meanings. Jung warned against the lazy comfort of simple dictionaries. Dreams are intimate dialogues between your waking and sleeping selves. What a snake means to one person may be entirely different to another. For one, it's danger. For another, transformation. For another, ancient wisdom. Ask the dream, not the internet. One of the most powerful tools Jung offered was the technique of active imagination, a process where you don't just analyze the dream, but engage it. Imagine yourself re-entering the dream while awake. Speak to the characters, ask them questions, follow the narrative where it wants to go, let the dream continue. In this process, something remarkable happens. The unconscious begins to respond, and it doesn't just offer symbols, it offers shadow work. You might dream of arguing with a parent, or failing a test, or drowning in an endless ocean. Jung would ask, what part of you do those figures represent? What fear or trait or wound is being mirrored? This is the beginning of shadow work psychology, the lifelong task of integrating the parts of ourselves we've rejected, feared, or forgotten. Recurring dreams are especially important. The spider dream I had, over and over again, it wasn't random. It was a signal, a psychic flare. Every time I ignored it, it came back louder, more vivid, more terrifying, until I sat down and asked, "What are you trying to show me?" And the spider, in its monstrous silence, revealed something raw, a buried trauma woven with guilt about a decision I never made peace with. The spider wasn't chasing me. It was carrying the truth I refused to face. And that's the paradox. Your dreams seem like a threat, but they are always an offering. Symbols, emotions, themes, all are part of a psychic language trying to help. You evolve, and the moment you treat your dreams with reverence, they stop being strange, they become sacred. She paused, a strange look in her eyes, like she could sense someone watching. Her voice lowered. "If you've heard me, leave a trace before I forget who I was. And if her words find you, mark them with a comment, a share, a signal before the silence returns. Because when we speak of dreams, we are speaking of memory, not just of events, but of the self, the parts of us we lost or never dared to meet. And in that silence, something vital waits. So write, reflect, engage. Your dreams are not just about sleep. They are about awakening. And now let us go deeper into the very source of those images. Let us ask, what lies beneath the symbols? What truths rise from the shadow when you finally listen? The unconscious is not a vault of secrets waiting to be cracked. It is a living mirror, reflecting everything you are and everything you avoid. To unlock it is not to conquer it, but to recognize its voice as your own. Carl Jung believed the unconscious was not just personal, but also collective, a vast sea of shared imagery, instinct and story that connects us all. And yet, within that ocean, your dreams are deeply personal boats, shaped by your wounds, your desires, your unfinished stories. To unlock the subconscious mind, we must listen not only for the universal truths, but for the ones that bruise uniquely against our hearts. Every dream you have is part of a conversation, a dialogue between the self you show the world and the self that watches from the dark. Most of us live only from the surface, making choices based on routine, fear, performance. But dreams cut through performance. They strip the mask. And what you find beneath is not always comfortable, but it is always real. Imagine a woman who dreams repeatedly of losing her voice in a crowd. She wakes, gasping, unable to scream. At first glance, it's just anxiety. But deeper reflection reveals a deeper truth. She spent her waking life silencing herself to please others. The dream isn't random. It's not meaningless. It's a flare from the depths of her subconscious, reminding her of the voice she's buried. This is the essence of dream analysis. It's not about predicting the future. It's about recovering the present, the parts of it we're too distracted or afraid to see. Through dreams, the subconscious mind reveals our inner architecture, our values, our fears, our emotional wounds, our deepest longings. Jung taught that dreams often compensate for the imbalance in our waking lives. If you are too rational, you might dream of chaos. If you are too controlling, your dreams may dissolve into absurdity or surrealism. The psyche wants wholeness, and the dream is the tool it uses to bring that into being. This is why dream analysis is not just an intellectual exercise, it is a spiritual one. You begin to see yourself more clearly. The rejected parts, the recurring emotional loops, the places where trauma froze you in time. You start to realize that every recurring image is a signpost pointing inward. And slowly, you begin the process of integration. Integration is the heart of Jung's psychological philosophy. Not to eliminate the shadow, but to embrace it. Not to kill the dragon, but to know why it guards the treasure. The subconscious doesn't want to shame you. It wants you to remember yourself fully. In my own life, the spider dream marked the beginning of a transformation. At first, I thought it was about fear. But as I explored it, journaling, meditating, even drawing the dream, I realized it was about the part of me I had cast out. The part of me that felt ugly. The part that remembered something painful. The spider wasn't chasing me. It was asking to be seen, and that is where emotional intelligence begins. Not in learning how to perform calmness, but in having the courage to feel what you've long denied. Because the unconscious doesn't forget. It records every wound, every silence, every emotion we've tried to bury. And through dreams, it whispers them back to us. Not to punish us, but to offer healing. The dream says, you are more than your surface. You are the sum of your fears, your hopes, your shadows, and your light. That's why decoding your nighttime visions matters. It's not about curiosity, it's about survival, wholeness, transformation, and it all begins with the question Jung left us with. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes. What would happen if you stopped ignoring your dreams? Not just the nightmares, not just the surreal fragments that leave you blinking into the dark, but all of them. What if you treated them not as echoes, but as voices, not as illusion, but as invitation? The truth is, you are dreaming all the time. Even now, your waking life is built upon patterns of perception, of fear, of desire that were shaped long before you chose them. But your dreams don't lie. They aren't trying to impress anyone. They don't care about your goals, your routines, your daily performances. They care only about truth, and they show you what you refuse to see, with symbols, stories and shadows that speak the raw language of the self. Carl Jung knew this. He believed that every dream is an offering, a key, a torch, a fragment of the self calling for return. And when you begin to honor them, to write them down, to sit with them, to speak them aloud, something profound shifts. The unconscious begins to answer. Patterns emerge. Clarity follows chaos, and meaning arises from the fog. You begin to see that your spider isn't just a monster. It's a memory, a symbol, a mirror, and in facing it, in standing still instead of running, you reclaim the part of yourself that fear locked away. That's what happened to me. The spider never chased me again. In my final dream, it waited, still, at the center of the cathedral. When I walked toward it, I found something unexpected. Not terror, but sadness. And when I reached out my hand, it disappeared, and in its place was the child I used to be. the one who had been carrying the guilt all along. And I wept, not from fear, but from recognition. This is the power of dream work. This is what it means to decode your nighttime visions. You won't find easy answers, but you will find yourself, not just the version you show others, but the whole truth, the flawed, aching, brilliant mosaic of your inner life. So write down your dreams, speak them, draw them, return to them like you would return to a sacred forest or a forgotten book of poems. Because every time you close your eyes at night, the unconscious speaks, and if you listen closely enough, you might just remember who you are. You've reached the end, or perhaps just the first layer, because what we uncover in the mind can't be neatly closed. If this story shifted something inside you, follow that instinct. Explore the next journey in our psychology series, linked below. But tread carefully. The truths we find in others are often reflections of what we deny in ourselves. And remember, dreams are not distractions from life. They are life, whispered in a secret language. And if you learn to listen, they just might save you.